Hi, my name is Lisa Dans, and I'm a former worker at Tesla, and I worked there for about 5.5 years as a software engineer. I joined Tesla because I care very passionately about solving climate change, and I saw the difference that the company was making, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I still see that difference, and I'm still grateful for that. And it's just so unfortunate that it's tainted by having somebody like Elon Musk in charge who goes on Twitter tears, insulting entire groups of people, and doesn't take it seriously when there's racism in his plant, and likes to pretend that he's taking it seriously, but then still lets the conditions fester. So I eventually left because I was just so frustrated at Elon. And I'm just going to tell a couple of things that I witnessed personally related to his union busting activities. I first found out about the major union effort when there was a company-wide email that was denouncing a blog post that was made by a pro-union person. So they were basically trying to undermine the testimony of somebody who was in favor of a union. And not long after that, they started, you could tell that the union was gaining power because they were pushing so hard against it. And they, you would go to the bathroom, and when you're sitting on the toilet, you see on the wall of the door that closes the stall a flyer that talked about why you should not sign a union card, and it was a bunch of baloney. It was I mean, this was years ago, but I remember specifically them claiming that signing a union card is like giving your address to a stranger because you have to put the address on your union card, I guess. And they also mentioned, they were really emphasizing the fee, the cost of the union dues, even though, of course, if you know much about unions, the idea is that the contract that you negotiate more than compensates for the dues that you're paying. So it was clearly just, the company, disinformation, the company not wanting to lose power. So there was that, there were those, and then it was widely reported that during their big layoff several years ago, that they were really targeting people who had been working on the union organizing efforts. And there were some very clear-cut cases. I'm not going to go into detail because the people involved can tell that better than I can. But what I will say is that I witnessed the chilling effect that it had on the unionizing effort. Like, they were very successful at stamping out people's will to continue, which I think is very frustrating. I talked to people just in the cafeteria after that. I remember asking somebody who had joined, I guess, after that incident, after the layoff incident, and asking what he thought of unionizing. And he basically said, I'm not going to touch that. I don't want to lose my job. I don't even want to have this conversation. And so unfortunately, the illegal union busting tactics worked. And it takes so long to prove the illegality, even though there's finally been, some supposed accountability. In the meantime, they successfully stamped out the spark. And so that's, I just wanted to share that with anybody who wonders what it's like to work at a company where Elon's in charge. That's part of it. I mean, everybody everywhere was a little bit confused about what was going on at the very beginning. But there were already clear class lines being drawn within the company. Like, before masks were available to everybody, so this was way back at the beginning when we didn't even have the amount of PPE, the masks were only available to the workers in the office, which on the one hand, I guess we know now that probably workers in that enclosed space were more vulnerable, but it definitely seemed like a class issue at the time that they were basically giving the masks to the white-collar workers only. Right. And then, of course, as we all know...
his public comments.
Yeah, that's true. He claimed that he thought that that COVID would not infect more than 1/10 of the U.S. population. No, not 1/10, sorry, 1/10% of the U.S. population, which that would be, 300,000? So, more than that Americans have died from COVID, so let alone being infected. So he was just wildly off with his predictions, and it really felt like sort of a profit-motivated desire to downplay it. But he still has a lot of people who just support him anyway. He made people keep working even when it wasn't safe, in violation of the health orders, which were then lifted a week later. And it was really hard to get information. Like, they kept sending these kind of propaganda emails to the company about, like, oh, we haven't had any infections and we haven't had any transmissions. But at that time, testing was widely unavailable. So how did we know? We had no idea. And, you know, if somebody did get infected, you could claim that they weren't infected at work. So it was a mess.